This is Tony Segro. Been a little while since I did a video, but I wanted to show you the areas on the C&S that I'm working on, that I'm redoing. This wall here where you're seeing those stairs and all, at one time used to be closed over to the other side. Well, it was opened up, so now the backs of some of these buildings in this little area here I call Logan Park has to be redid. For example, the back of this pool hall and stuff didn't have any back walls, so I had to put back walls on there. And this building here that was sitting in the other part of the city, we moved over to here because it's going to be seen on both sides of the wall. Okay, this street here I redid and did some joint compound on some of the streets. This here, at one time this is a dark gray street, it's black. And I was driving down Chestnut Street in Columbia between like 3rd and 5th Street, and I noticed a lot of it is a light gray color, and then there's tar lines, I guess, where they might have tarred the road or something like that. So I went over, and forgive the light in there, I guess it's strobe time in the pool hall. I did some lines on there, make it look like it was maybe tar or something like that, and then I also built a sidewalk and did some, on this bridge here, did some cracks and stuff. Down here I did a little bit of graffiti under the bridge. You're in the city, you gotta have graffiti somewhere. And that was completed too. Coming over here, I made this scene a little bit bigger, and I might add some more people there. I put like a car in back there with a 17 on it, like that's the fire chief, and he's going to be at the fire hydrant. Pretty much of this area stayed the same, except for the painting of the street and such. Looks like the diner is closed right now, but I think that might be a little something with the lighting going on in there. This over here is the subway area. You notice the stairway is exposed. I'm building a building like a one-story subway entrance. Okay, the concrete freeway back here, I added joint compound to that to clean up all the cracks and the crevices and stuff, and added some railing along there. Oh, it looks darn, I was just gonna come down the diner, open there for a minute, but I put a concrete joint compound on the side of the freeway bridge and railings and stuff, so that's sort of new. Over here, this here is our little fire pit where they're doing the chicken barbecue behind the fire company. And let me turn this on. Underneath there's some flames going on there. Let me move him out of the road a minute. And you can see the flames and all in there cooking the chicken. Okay, Brian Abramo put that in. What I'm planning to do with this subway building is it's going to sit here when it's done in this open area where the stairs are. I have a light inside because I want to light that up, and I want to run wire across to a telephone pole over here near where the fire company is, because this is part of the permanent layout. This over here is a lift out, so I have to be careful about putting lights on the lift out. Okay, down underneath here, since we're not going to run trains on this subway, I made it a permanent display. It's just like a static diorama. So, add concrete. This, by the way, is I call it the Logan Kester Streets subway station, okay? Because we have Logan Street on one side and Kester Street on the other side. And the people were in here waiting for the train. And back here, I scratch built an R12 subway car from New York City, okay? And I just sat him back here in the station like he's just pulling into the station, okay? And of course down here just added joint compound to close up any of the cracks between where the subway platform sat and down where the table or the fascia is. Okay, so that should be pretty much lit up. But I've sort of been busy, getting here now and then to do these kind of things, and so this is like an overall view of the lift out in the back. I made that permanent. There's a lift out back here. It was a park. I had to add another fence. And some of these buildings that were on the lift out are now permanent, so they're not going to be able to be moved. So this is a general scene of what's going to happen over here. Down on this side of the city, this part was taken out when they did renovations on the layout. This city used to be wider, but now it's a little bit narrower. So I added some flats and photographs and such along the back wall. There's a track that goes up in the back there, and then there's a road that Fred put in. This building here, this track used to be what we call the inner loop line. Well, now this outer track becomes the inner loop line, and it's a lot longer. The church is still there. You know, I added a few scenery things here with this sisal and weeds and stuff growing up along the side of the banks near the railroad. Have a little place down here where it looks like it's right here. It's sort of like water coming out from under the street. Back here's a little park that I made. Some flats and stuff, and here's another subway entrance. This street here I added. I'm going to try to take my time going up this way a little bit. The Lubitz Theater was named after an old friend of mine who used to help us out here. He moved from Long Island, named Arthur Lubitz. So I called this the Lubitz Theater, and it's been on the layout before, but now it's more up front. And here's a diorama of buildings that were scratch built. In here is a little kid shooting basketball. And the way I did that, I took a little piece of clay to make the ball, but then I connected a wire between the little boy and then the basket. So it looks like he's shooting at the basket, and the ball's in midair. This here is the station. It used to be up higher. Well, we lowered that down, so it sits more on track level. This bridge back here is a bridge that Fred Regal built, and it's scratch built. It's made from copper tubing and such. There are lights on it then, and he's looking for a 2-inch by 3-inch American flag that he can put in there. He's going to have it like it's blowing in the wind. This area over here still needs to be worked on yet, but it'll be moving along. I forget the ladder in the road here. Dan has been working on rock molds here. This is a huge mountain. It's going to go way up there, and it's right on the corner of the layout here. We're right across the aisle from the steel trestle, okay, Mardic trestle. Okay, so we'll come across here. Dan's building these rock molds and puts in, he paints them and everything. I'm not sure totally of the procedure he goes through, but this track up in here in the back coming out is going to be a future logging line that goes up to the middle aisle. Been putting in some nice beautiful trees that he hand makes up here. I think he said he can make maybe 70 or 80 a day, the way he has his procedure down. I mean, I tried it one time and it didn't work out too good. I mean, I just didn't have the patience for it. But, you know, that's the way model railroading is. Some of us do this and some of us do that. Okay, these are some of the trees he hasn't planted yet. So I think he's hoping to get about 10,000 trees on the layout till he's totally done. But these are some of the trees that he's been adding. Him and Fred and Bruce. They're 3 guys from the group. This down here is a little diorama I built on the corner of the layout. And some of this came from the old layout. I put it into the corner, we added fascia. And made some trees and stuff like this, you know, the scratch belt stuff. I make wire trees and stuff. So this is where the train goes on up into Columbia. We added the fascia and fixed it up. Coming up over the hill here, and this up here is, this is all the town of Columbia, the way it looked back in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, maybe up to 1950. Now, this is a car plant that Dan and Fred put in, and Bruce and all. This bridge across here is interesting because it's it's an N-scale train safe that we had laying around, and they used it as a crossover over the tracks. But this is a building that they put in recently, and I guess it's pretty much finished for now. Back in the back over here is another plant, or another building back over on the other side of the track. This is a car facility where cars are brought in and unloaded from the train. They can come down the aisle. Okay, here we go. Now this area back in here, I think is going to be a coal mine at some point. He's putting background trees and stuff in there for that. And up there's a Reading line that comes out through. Forgive this ladder a minute. There we go. And this is an area here on the back side of where you saw the trees a little bit ago. Coming up through, train comes, a Reading line mostly is up here in the top. Down here, Fred and Dan added a little area like a creek, you know, the park. So they have a few trees down here. There's a little walking bridge over the creek. Up on the top, they have a lot of very nice scratch-built trees, individual trees. And they come up through, and there's a creek that they're adding with a waterfall coming down. I think eventually they plan to put in like a forest fire type scene up here too. And they're still working on that one yet. This is a feed mill that Dan put in right here along the tracks. Now this lumber building and all is going to go down, or the coal mine's going to go down where I showed you the coal mine. These are just sitting here right now. They're out of the road. There's not a whole lot of work going up in this area yet. As I come around the corner, this is where the backs of those buildings were that we had to fix up. So you can see the tree, or the backs of the buildings, and the trains going through over there. Brian is working on this area here. He has a tunnel put in right now and some stone wall right here. So he's still working. There's going to be a building up there. It's a replica of the big house, the stone house there at Route 23 and 441 in Marietta. The area I've been working on is I'm trying to get younger people and more people involved with the C&S Railroad, because you know most of us are getting up there in age. We want to try to get younger people involved. So I built a switching layout that visiting kids and families and all can come in to run, and I call it the Branchburg Switching Station. Okay, and most of these buildings here are buildings that were on the layout before, or maybe a few flats that were scratch built and such. This bridge was on the layout from before, and down underneath here I added some mirrors underneath there so it looks like they continue on, the tracks do. But we have two passing sidings on this layout, and this way, you know, we have a transformer thing over here. They can run trains. So, you know, people can come in and you know, just visit. and we're more than welcome to let them run the trains. We'll turn on the switching layout, okay?